Okay, so all I've done recently is post stuff to YouTube that's about my messed up house, which is behind me. So I thought I'd post something a little more fun, interesting, and something that people may like to watch. Since the house is messed up, we've decided to work on the property and what's growing on it. So little update here of what we've got going so far. I'll kind of walk you around the yard and then show you what I'm planting today. Good stuff. My wife and I are working towards a fruit forest, or food forest is what she calls it. I had never heard that term until she said it. We already had lots of existing stuff on the property, but when my wife bought this property with her mother back in 1997, there was 2 trees on it, and the 2 trees were it, and between my wife and I and my mother-in-law, we've planted a lot more. So I thought you might enjoy this. It's to me, it's kind of zen and calming to walk around and look at, so I'll let you all in on it. Okay, so this is our property here in Arizona. It is not the dunes of Tatooine like everybody seems to think it is. Nerd reference for you. We are not all sand dunes and desert and cactus. Our property is flood irrigated, so it's a little bit easier to grow stuff here than it would be in, say, suburbia. But we have lots and lots of trees on the property. Got a couple orange trees. There's one, and there's one way back over there. But I'm going to walk you around and show you what we've planted so far, mixed in with what was already planted. So straight ahead of me, you can see several newer trees. We've got a mulberry. There's another mulberry over there. Guava. And another guava. Lots of good stuff. So again, flood irrigated, so it's rather, well, it's a factor of probably 10 easier to grow here than, say, in suburbia, in Chandler or Tempe, Arizona, or whatever. And here my wife has made these handy dandy little tags out of cans. There you go, there's our other guava right there. It's a white guava. And then got a couple of little guys around here that we're working on. Another mulberry over there. And the mulberries were growing wild on the property. We simply uprooted them and put them in new spots. So we got one fatality, we think, here. It's a pecan that was pre-existing that we moved because it wasn't in such a good spot. Still green when you scrape him, but I don't think he's going to make it. So we're going to give him a season to recover, but yeah. And then back here, that's a apple tree that is enormous. That's probably, I'm 6'7", that's at least 10, maybe 12 feet over my head for the top of that. And the canopy spot probably spans maybe 20 feet across. So big apple tree, loves flood irrigation. And behind that are all our eucalyptus trees, and there's some drake elms and ash and something called a shade master, which very tropical looking. Haven't exactly figured out where it's from yet. Also a tree that was put in by my mother-in-law. And there's our citrus over there, and then we got our little citrus grove starting. Now you notice the grass is pretty tall right now. We'd like to keep it trimmed a little more, but we've had probably record rain here this monsoon season, so things are growing out of control. Again, it's maybe 10-12 inches tall in some spots, and that's only 2 weeks of growth, maybe a week and a half. Another citrus. Had to have a blood orange, me being a chef. That was a necessity. And then I believe this is the lime over here. Yeah, it's the Mexican seedless lime, thornless lime, sorry. And then over here, we got the clementine. That's more for my son. This is for my wife, definitely. Definitely me over here for the blood orange. And then this guy, forgive my memory, but I can't remember, is Meyer lemon. Oh, man. Okay, that's me too. I forgot about that one. How could I? How dare I? So, big orange tree, which is matched by another one over there. Now, these were not purchased. They were transplanted from a grove when they were building a subdivision nearby this property, and they pulled them out of the ground and offered them to my mother-in-law and my wife for free. So they're pretty well established and pretty big. We've got some kind of wild growth going over here, and this is my nursery, which was a lot more full until about 5 days ago because a bunch of stuff got put in the ground. But as you can see, these are just seedlings that have, well, not even seedlings, these are seeds that have dropped and popped up over the property, so I pull them out of the ground and keep them going, and hey, free trees. This guy here is one of my favorites. He serves no purpose other than to be pretty. He won't even provide shade. It's called an adenium. Apparently pretty hard to grow, but I have fairly good luck with them. This is my second one. My first one I grew from a itty bitty stick, only about 6 inches tall, and he's over this direction. But yeah, now trashed house, broken. So then kind of this area is kind of going wild. Plans for this are, you know, make it a fruit bearing or vegetable bearing area as well, but it's also a bit of a nursery as well because it's pretty much in shade all day. So anything that doesn't need direct sun can go here and gets watered by sprinklers, or as of late, the rain. So I got my ginseng tree over there. Say hi, Jack. No? Okay, it's old man Jack there, grumpy old dude. Just sits around and screams, "Get off my lawn," all day. So then, cowpeas that I have growing, not eating them as of yet, using this plant to get more seeds, so I can probably start a field of peas out back on the back acre. Sweet potato vine, just for pretty. This is my other adenium. Now, he's probably about 2 feet tall now, and brought him from another house we had, and he started as a little 6-inch little stick, and he loves the sun. You notice I don't have any drip line running to him. He does pretty well with just the water he gets, and if we have a rather dry season, I put a little water on him and he's good to go. Hibiscus that I'm trying to bring back to life, that when we moved in here I thought was dead. My mother-in-law did not have the greenest thumb. In fact, she claimed she had a black thumb. So bringing that back to life. Sage plant, and then some cool deserty stuff, little succulents that are kind of cool, lemongrass. Another tree that popped up in this pot, actually. Didn't plant it, just one day noticed there was a tree here. So a couple more that we have that just seem to pop up all over the property. These guys are going to be coming out of pots probably in the next day or so and going in the ground out back. Same with this guy. He's rather big, so he needs to go in the ground. This guy I'm probably going to give a little while longer before I put him in the ground. But yes, my under construction house from being thrashed and the roof broken. But property's pretty, right? So now we're going to walk out back here and show you some of the other stuff we planted. So over here is what's called a loquat. And if my buddy Chef Santos sees this, he'll probably hit me up to get some of the fruit off of this, because I know he loves them. Growing in his own little microclimate here. We've got elms and ashes and eucalyptus all over here that pretty much provide this shade all day until sun gets right about there, and then he only gets a little direct sun at the horizon for maybe an hour or two. But he gets really good water from sprinklers from upper yard, and then irrigation flows in on this side on the lower pasture area, and loves his water. Tropical plant. Over here is what my son is probably very excited about. It's his favorite fruit, most likely. It's mango. All right, and I'm trying to remember what varietal of mango, but I believe this was a white, yep, it was a white Piri mango is what it says. So this guy has lots of new growth where you can see the lime green looking leaves, and then this is not dying, this is new growth coming in, and these will turn the lime green. But this guy where all the dark green is at was original growth, and he's only been in the ground about maybe 6 months, and he's taken off, and he's got the same thing. He gets water from sprinklers from upper yard and irrigation that flows in out there. And as you can see, we got a good little microclimate here to plant more stuff in between trees. So coming out here to the back pasture, which is pretty much open green field. Now, my mother-in-law used to allow neighbors to bring horses over here just to graze, to mow it down, but it really didn't serve a purpose. So I started these from seed. Now, you can't tell from video, but these are about 3 feet tall, but they're only about 30 to 40 days old. These are castor bean, which castor bean is a little, the beans themselves are a little toxic, but they're good for getting rid of pests. If you got burrowing pests, things like that. But what I want them for is not that. I want them for the shade, because they get huge, create a canopy, grow really, really fast, as you can tell, since it's only like 40, 45 days old. And that grew from seed. And I'm going to use them for microclimate out here and start more of a forest in the back pasture. And I planted 4 of them, which 3 seem to be doing very, very well. I only had 1 shriveled leaf on that guy. A little bit of planting shock. But then this guy, poor guy back here, I think he's given up the ghost, unfortunately. He's got 1 little leaf that's hanging on, but I put him in the ground, and within 30 minutes all the leaves shriveled. Still got a nice stiff trunk on him, but I don't think he's going to make it. Which, hey, 1 out of the 4 out of all the stuff I planted out here, not bad. So then now we'll walk around the other side of the property through all. Sorry about that. My phone cut out because the temperature of my phone got too hot, so I had to go throw it in a refrigerator to cool it down. Welcome to Arizona, which is unusual right now, because usually we're really dry and hot, but now we're really humid and mildly hot for us, hot for other parts of the country. So now we're going to walk over to the other side and show you what we've planted down the other side of the property. Okay, so walking out of our little microclimate here out into full sun for the stuff that can handle it. Over here we planted, and this guy hasn't gotten very big yet, not a super fast grower, needs the grass trimmed around him, but this is a Barbados cherry, or I think they call it an acerola cherry. It's already getting blooms on him, you can see right there. So he's pretty cool. He's already had 1 fruit that appeared on him, but actually 2 fruit, and they blew off in high wind, unfortunately. Over here we've got a fig, which they do fantastic here. We had one of these at our first house that started as a little stick in the ground, and my wife thought it was a dead tree, tried to dig it out, couldn't get it out, left it because it thought it would die, or she thought it would die, and it took it as a threat and came back with a vengeance and ended up a very massive, massive fig tree. Within like 6 years, it was over 10, 15 feet tall, which was insane. Here, pomegranate that's rather huge. It's probably a good 15 feet across and probably, 12 to 15 feet tall, I'm guessing. It's big. About as old as my son, because this was a Mother's Day present to my wife before he was born. So a little bit older than him. And then the second one here is only a few years younger. Not quite as big, but pretty close. So 2 very large pomegranate trees that bear a lot of fruit. Then down over here on the ground, which also needs to have grass trimmed around it, is a very small donated fig like that other one was. And he started with 1 leaf on him, and you can kind of see him in here. This little guy here. Now he's got lots of leaves on him, and get the grass trimmed away from him in the next day or so. And then up front here, we've got more of our shade trees, creating a little microclimate. So, and this is, I believe, another elm that my wife planted years ago. And then this little guy here and this little guy here on this other side of this tree are the same thing as this, that are volunteer pop-ups that we're going to let stay to create a windbreak, because the wind usually comes from that direction out of the east when we get those huge haboobs that people like to post video of, or dust storms. Haboob's just a funny term. So this will be a nice windbreak. It's a cottonwood, which people try to tell you not to plant because they're flimsy and they'll fall over, but this tree is probably, like 16, 17 years old. And it's probably all of 60 feet tall, huge. Lost a lot of branches off it in the last windstorm, even though it doesn't look like it. But huge tree. Down the other side of the property, where you probably saw a previous part of the video, we have 4 more of those. They grow really well in flood irrigation. They need a lot of water. So that is the property, with all of the lovely plants we have so far. Now I'm going to show you what we're going to plant today for Pretty, which is for my wife, because she'll love it, and it'll create a nice little hedgerow eventually along the west side of the fence, which is the entrance side to our property.